Okay, good. Call to order the hybrid zoning board of appeals meeting. Like to take roll.
Terry Kelly,
I'm here.
Pat Wisner,
Here.
Bristol Blagoev,
Blagweb.
Deb Duran is not here, and Elizabeth Hecht is excused. So
We have a quorum. I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Move we approve it. The agenda.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Yep. Any, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, next item on the agenda is approve the meeting minutes and decision document that was dated February 19th, 2025. That was in our packet, and I would make a motion that we accept.
Second.
And roll, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. So at this point, I would like to call to order the public hearing for the petition for a grant variance at 2248 Maple Drive. Petitioners are Anthony Zito. So I have a statement to read about the public hearing. So good evening. Like we talked earlier, my name is Terry Kelly. I'm the chair of the Village's Zoning Board of Appeals. My fellow Zoning Board of Appeals members who are present this evening are Pat. Liz is excused absence. Deb is possibly on her way. And I can never remember how to say your first name.
Crystal.
Are here. Village Attorney Randall Nesbitt is also present tonight, as well as his staff, serving in the capacity of recording secretary. And we do not have an alternate. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a quasi-judicial appeals board that is comprised entirely of village residents. The members of that board, who are bound by the provisions of the Wisconsin statutes, are formally appointed by the village board, and we have been charged with hearing appeals of decisions that are made by the village administrator and or village plans commission, as well as petitions for variances. Tonight, we have a public hearing, which will be introduced shortly by a recording secretary. Anyone who testifies must first be sworn in by the village attorney. The procedure for the evening is as follows. Staff reads the notice into record. The appellant or petitioner will present their case. They may have an attorney present, present the case on their behalf or in conjunction with them. Following the appellant or petitioner's testimony, anyone in favor of the proposal may speak. The chair reserves the right to limit your testimony to 3 minutes. Next, staff will read any letters received in support of the request. Letters may be summarized. The zoning administrator or the designee will then present testimony on behalf of the village. Those in support of the village's position may then speak. Again, testimony may be limited to 3 minutes. Staff will then read any letters received or summarized in support of the village's position. The appellant or petitioner or their attorney can rebut any testimony given. If more than one person wants to provide additional rebuttal, we ask you select a spokesperson who can speak on behalf of those present, so we avoid repetition. The zoning administrator or the designee then provides rebuttal. Like the applicant, those in support of the village can rebut testimony, but again, we ask you select a spokesperson to allow repetitive rebuttal. And as mentioned earlier, testimony can be limited to 3 minutes. We need to keep the hearing moving along. If there's anything the board feels needs clarification, they can ask for clarification while we are on the record. This is not an opportunity to provide additional arguments. If you do, we have the right to give the other side an opportunity to rebut your testimony. Rather, you are to concisely answer the question. So once the public hearing has officially been closed, the board will discuss the case amongst themselves, determine facts, findings, and will make a decision. Absolutely no additional testimony is allowed during those deliberations. The board assumes if this is a petition for variance, the petitioner has read the applicable sections of the code, the instructions and information on the application they submitted, perhaps read the statutes as they pertain to the variances, and when a board may approve a variance, and understands this board can only grant a variance if a hardship unique to the property exists. That hardship cannot be personal to you for economic reasons or self-created. There has to be a preservation of intent, exceptional circumstances due to unique features. The variance allows the petitioner a reasonable use of their property afforded to others in the same zoning district, and granting a variance will not create a detriment to adjacent properties or be contrary to the intent of the zoning code. If this is an appeal, the appellant must demonstrate how the zoning administrator or plan commission erred in their decision. So at this time, it's 5:07, looks like. I would like to call the public hearing to order.
Okay, so I'm going to read the public hearing notice. This is for June 2nd, 2025 at 5 p.m. Petition, Anthony Zito petitions for a variance from section 66.0311, parent 4 parent of the municipal code, which requires a structure to be set back 70 feet from the center line of a public road. Mr. Zito proposes to retain a deck built 54 feet from the center line of Maple Drive, which is County Highway ZZ. The property is located at 2248 Maple Drive in a single-family residence, parent R1, parent zoning district. The purpose of the hearing is to provide testimony from the petitioner or agent and from any party in favor or opposed to the petition. Interest parties are urged to participate in the public hearing and give testimony. Written testimony, including email, will be accepted at the office. We share the address, the deadline for that. We have not received any letters, however, for this petition. Copy of the petition, zoning code, and zoning maps are all on file at the village administration office during normal business hours. In this particular case, we do not have the zoning administrator who would be presenting to you. You would have their designee, which is the code compliance officer, which is the staff person who was working with the Zitos on resolving the violations on their property. So she will introduce herself when she gets sworn in. So
The next step would be for the appellant or petitioner to present their case.
right, so you'd want to introduce your names and then Randy will swear you in.
You raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Mrs. Zito, do you plan on testifying too?
Why don't we have you sworn in?
Yeah.
On the way to
My name is Taylor Zito.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Looks like you won't be testifying.
Great. Okay.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this today. My name is Anthony Zito. I live at 2248 Maple Drive. Here respectfully requesting a variance from the 70-foot setback requirement in order to keep an existing deck on my property, which currently sits at 54 feet from the center line of the road. There are a few reasons I believe the request is reasonable and in line with the spirit of the zoning code. First, the existing deck is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. In fact, several homes directly adjacent to mine are located even closer than the 54 feet to the center line of the road. So while my deck doesn't meet the current setback requirement, it is not out of character with the street or its development history. It actually maintains a uniform appearance within the neighborhood property. Second, the deck presents no safety or public access issues. It doesn't obstruct sightlines, sidewalks, or the road. It has been in place for a year and a half now, and no issues during this time has caused any known problems or complaints. Third, being required to remove the deck would create, obviously, be expensive to remove the deck. It provides a functional outdoor space for my family and adds value to the home, and removing it would come with substantial cost to remove it, especially since it aligns with the other homes in the neighborhood. It also, worth noting, the deck They have not been constructed before the setback rules are in effect. I'm not sure when the rules are in effect, the 70 foot. But when we purchased the home, years ago, that deck was existing. We had photos dating back at least to 2013 with the same deck. We did replace the top of the deck and we extended it to cover the concrete patio. But we didn't make it any closer to the road than it was previously. To summarize, I'm not asking for any special privilege, just the opportunity to maintain what is already, fits the neighborhood and doesn't create harm and it has functional safety for years. That's about it. I have some photos if I can approach to show you guys.
Please do.
Yeah, thanks.
So Anthony, you'll have to enter those into the record. So if you don't have them to give us, you'll have to email them and then we'll enter them into the record.
So I'll show you the photos from Google Earth images. This is Google Earth dating from this is when we bought the hospital. So this is so there's the deck there, as you can see, they had a picket fence as well, from the side. We actually, the same stairs that are there on the side are still there. We use the same ones. Here's a side view. The footings are the same. We didn't add this, all we did was replace the boards on top. Like I said, we extended over the patio, but it's still the same as it was back in 2013. So again, I don't know when that was, when we bought the house. So this is us redoing the house, painting it, and you see the deck is there. Then the sidewalk was there already, the deck was very, very beat up looking. And this is the deck now, same 2 stairs, all we do is extend it this way, but it's no closer to the road than it was since at least 2013.
That's when the house was originally built.
No, the house was built, I don't know what year, like 50s, maybe 40s. Not sure. But yeah, there's when we bought the house, this is what the deck looked like. And then, like I said, and this is what the house looked like when we bought it. So from the road, you probably wouldn't notice that being there. The guy kind of let it go. But from 2013, that's there. So.
Yeah, okay.
Here you want to see me?
You showed them to
I
me
showed-
earlier,
yeah.
but I think maybe,
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Terry
can
should
look
see them anyway as
Oh,
part of the record.
Sure. So from Google Earth, there's the deck was there from 2013. Here's a side view of the deck being there. And then the deck is still there. We didn't change the deck at all. It's the same width. Here's the stairs, same 2 steps. And then, like I said, that's the same steps that were there. We extended it this way, but we never got it closer to the road from when it was original. So, and like I said, we cleaned up a lot of the space, like you said, when we first bought the house, that's what it looked like. It was a mess.
So we have that for the record.
Mhm.
If you could submit an email with those pictures
Sure, absolutely.
to the, you want it to you or to?
It should, actually, it should go to me, since I'm keeping the file on it.
Okay.
So Julie.
Yeah, that would be good. They can have that for the record as part of it.
Sure, absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
and how many photos did you show us there?
I have, I don't know if I showed the additional. This is like I said, it's the one did you see that one?
Mhm.
But yeah,
And you went this way.
it's all we did was go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't come out any further than was existing.
Okay, and how many do you have? Would you be 40?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 photos.
And then you'd also want to show Carla since she has to address your testimony.
Google Earth image.
It's not exciting.
Harry, your first meeting is next. It's enough to put people to sleep.
Yes.
He doesn't want to testify.
No.
Here. Rather than receive patio, and everybody just put that from stuff down.
Yeah, this, yeah, but the 54 feet is from this point, that way. Not this way, obviously. That's it, just in front of the house. The back is still there. Bottom. Yeah.
Would Carla be the zoning administrator to speak?
She's the code compliance officer, so she's the zoning administrator's designee. Yeah.
That was go top. But it's the same distance as it was higher. 54 feet. So we didn't change, it. We didn't make it any closer to street than it was. This is the bottom. So, yeah, we took this off, we left the buildings and all around. The same width.
It's pretty much stays the same every time, right?
Yeah.
So do you mind if I just keep it?
Yeah, I wrote it such that it didn't have, Janelle changed it every
What's
meeting.
the email address? Send me Steve.
Julie, Julie .schmelzer, SCHMELZER.
Really dot.
Yep, SCHMELZER. It should pop up because I've sent you emails before at sisterbaywi.gov.
So we, next, item would be, anybody, in favor of the proposal may speak. I don't see anybody here in person in the audience. We're zooming. Is there anybody on Zoom that would want to speak in favor of this?
You wanna speak?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot. Yeah. you were saying.
No, we have nobody who
Nobody?
has raised their hand to speak.
Okay, we have no letters as mentioned, so we can move on. Next would be the zoning administrator designee will present testimony on behalf of the village. That would be,
Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Carla Heck, and I am your code enforcement officer for the village of Sister Bay. We all received a copy of the staff report dated June 2nd, 2025. You guys can kind of review this. Along with that, I want to kind of add just a little bit of history so we can understand. I know I only have 3 minutes, so I will pass.
Actually, he can limit it to 3 minutes if he wants, like if there's a bunch of people, so you actually have more time.
Like, I know I mentioned that I started in March of 2025, but this case in particular started in June of 2023. So this is a little bit of history, so you understand how this got to this point. The village did receive a total of 6 complaints regarding this property at 2248 Maple Drive. It was a combination of 2 different complainants, and 3 of which were noise complaints that were being in violation during the village of Sister Bay quiet hours. And the rest, the 3 of them, were also related to cutting down trees, along with a noise nuisance and 2 decks that were built without a permit. An investigation was conducted as a result of this complaint as a part of our job duty. It revealed the following facts. Number 1, Mr. Zito had hired a contractor, I'm not going to read it, based on a reveal of the file, had closed off a section of the entryway between the garage and the home. You probably saw a little bit of a picture, and the wall was extended. This project did not have a permit. Number 2, he had cut down trees without a permit. Number 3, Mr. Zito built a back deck without a permit, approximately 10 by 32 square footage, so that's 320 square feet. And number 4, he had built a front deck without a permit, the one that he's referring to, that is lighting here for a variance. To replace the 10 by 16 original, this house was built, just so you know, 1957. It was built at the time when you saw the picture of the white picket fence, it was an at grade patio. And along with that, there was a 5 by 10 deck with a stoop. We think it's a stoop, but it's 2 by 5. Section 66.0311, parent 4, parent of the municipal code states that any setback of 70 feet from the center line of the public road must be enforced. 2248 is in a single family residence, R1 zoning district. The new deck that was built without a permit violates the road setback. So this new deck, as you know, does not meet the required setback. It is now 54 feet from the center line. So I just kind of want to add that, according to tax assessor records, the setback is now as close as 64 from the center line, and the longer wall, which is now a setback, is about 71 feet from the center line. These measurements from the 54 was actually provided by a surveyor hired by Mr. Zito. So note that it was the village that required a survey to get the property lines and the survey to be completed. That was prepared on 10/27/2023 by Brian Frisk. So a continuation of the file also revealed that during the course of time, mind you, it's what, June 2nd, 2025. The whole complaint started in June of 2023, and now we're dealing with it in 2025. So all of the time, there was some email exchanges, technical assistance provided to Mr. Zito. We also issued a citation in the amount of $263 for the noise nuisance, and $452 citation for the permits, so after the fact permits. They're paid, so that was good. They were paid, and we began the process of permit applications. Now, during the correspondence on December 22nd, 2023 email, we had kind of reiterated that in order to comply, you need to do either remove the deck, okay, or apply for variance. When you remove the deck, we told him, you know, you can kind of restore it in a way that it was the original plan. I know that conversations with our administrator, Julie, we tried, and she tried to, I know that we had spoken, we had spoken to Mr. Vito if he could possibly retain a portion of the deck. And, you know, that conversation went on with the consultation with the village administrator, Julie, and it just wasn't gonna happen. So that is why we're here today.
Okay, thank you very much. The next would be anybody in support of the village position would go ahead and speak. I see nobody in the audience. Again, anybody on a Zoom that would like to speak?
No one has raised their hand.
I'm sorry,
No, there's not.
there's nobody. We have no letters. So the next would be for you folks to rebut any testimony that's been given.
I mean, the testimony is pretty much right on it. I mean, initially we hired local builders or construction contractors. So we were told, you know, we were new out here, so we were kind of unsure of how this whole thing worked out here. So we tried to hire local guys, and they kind of like gave us a little bit of a runaround. They were giving us like, hey, we took care of this, this is done. But obviously things that they told us weren't true, because they didn't hold necessary permits and they didn't do things. One of them actually.
Thanks.
One of them, unfortunately to us, you know, we paid him a lot of money and he kind of just took off on us completely. So we were kind of in a struggle there. So we had to actually bring PCs from like Chicago to finish up what they started. So it was kind of a little bit of a nightmare just to go. And that's why we didn't get the necessary permits, but obviously I paid those fines immediately. I wanted to issue the permits right away. So that was definitely on my fault. I should have been more aware. I should have maybe double checked with them instead of taking them at word. But that was that whole situation there. I know Carla wasn't here at that time, but yeah, that was a stressful time going through that. But yeah, everything else, I mean, yeah, I think that considering the house that literally the house next door to us sits in front of our house, in front of our deck, actually. He's maybe 15 feet from center line road, 20 feet tops. I mean, just that alone is we've got so much front yard, so the deck doesn't, like I said earlier, it couldn't really cross any line when it comes to like nuisances or anything like that, so, but other than that.
Thank you. Is there, would you like to,
I'd like to just kind of respond to that. I just want to also add, I think, you know, I give you the deadline, and we actually issued, and so again, we issued, I remind you, this happened in June of 2023, in July 10th of 2023, we issued a cease and desist on all activity on the property until all relations have been resolved. Even after the fact, another complaint came in, and trees were being cut down. So the cease and desist didn't even matter at the time, and that's what I kind of want to bring out.
Oh, yeah, that was,
Hold on, and I also just want to also add a few more things. I think the Village of Sister Bay went over and beyond to assist you for providing technical assistance, multiple telephone discussions and email correspondence. And again, we kind of gave you the options to, you know, cut down the deck a little bit. Your petition even included a petition. Now it's happening, what, a year and a half later. But at the same time, I'm, you know, the concern is just continuing to violate the cease and desist order. And getting down to, you know, the contractor that you hired, I think, you know, I can tell you that at my current position, I am I was a certified, I was an inspector for the state. And unfortunately, anyone that disturbs a pre-78 home has to be a certified renovator. They have to take the right disciplines. And I suspect that your person did not only for asbestos-containing materials and also lead. You have to assume it's there. So that's another concern in my professional opinion. I don't think you, in my opinion, I don't think you would qualify as a hardship case. And, you know, I also think that you will have another deck that was built again illegally on the back area, which is 320 square feet that you can visibly enjoy the backyard. And I think what is quite clear, you chose to submit a variance as opposed to following and complying with our technical assistance and the Village of Sister Bay ordinance of section 66.0311.4 parent. The intent of the code is to regulate and restrict the use of all structures, lands, and waters. We all know that, correct? That's why we're all sitting here. Maple Drive is not a street, it is a highway. So in the event that the highway or the county decides to expand that, you know, they are gonna widen that road, you never know. And also, sister neighborhood is comprised of homes less than 70 foot at the center line of road. So, you know, I know that you're saying that other lines, other people have, you know, less than 54 or setback, that's the same way, but they're not building decks, right? They're not cutting down trees. I mean, I don't think I have any information from the current Village of Sister Bay data that we have any permits for any new decks to occur on Maple Drive, which is a highway. And I know that also that other correspondence to Julie was not provided to you on time because the email that you sent to her was incorrect. So in my professional opinion, I don't support this variance, and because of those issues, the history of non-compliance, the failure to continue the cease and desist order, and you have to get to certain multiple violations in order to even have a cease and desist. So that's my concern as well. And I know that you paid the fine, but I just think that the rule is quite clear, and the intent of regulations and ordinances are a minimum requirement. To me, a minimum requirement is like a grade C. So it is up to applicants, it's up to licensees to go over and beyond that minimum requirement, and or at least contact us, say, hey, what can I do? I know that I have a house I'd like to see and review ordinances for the village. I think that is as a homeowner or a STR applicant, that is kind of the responsibility as well. I mean, granted, you had that luck, but, you know, that goes without saying, is that it is your full responsibility. Thank you.
I think we should, but the Zitos,
Before we move on, would you mind if I ask a couple of clarification questions?
sir,
As far as the back deck situation that you discussed. Is that a conforming area? I mean, have permits now been issued for that back deck?
Yes, after the fact, yes.
Okay,
And there, yes. Now the back deck is there.
all right. And do I understand correctly that as far as the front stoop, anything outside or beyond the front door would require a variance to enable that to be there?
Let's see, I'm gonna review the, staff report for the stoop. So I can kind of read it to you, okay?
Okay,
All right. For the assessor, what existed on the property prior to your purchase, Mr. Zito, is that, it shows that there was a 10 by 16 at-grade patio. At-grade patios are exempt from setbacks, if that answers your question, and including the 5 by 10 deck, the one that he showed a picture, with a 2 by 5 entry area, presumably a stoop to get to the door. And so we proposed, at the time, in order to comply with the village, is to maybe just restore, go back to the at-grade level, and we will add a 16 foot egress, a stoop, which I believe is state code. So I hope that answers your question.
okay, thank you.
I think with that rather long and your questions and all, I think it would be fair to have the Zitos respond if they would like, if you could keep it.
Yeah, sure. No, just in response to the trees being cut down. So initially, when we moved up here, I didn't even know that was like we had a few dead trees. We had them removed right away because I don't want them falling on the house. And a few of them were ash. And when I contacted the local guy here, he's been cutting trees down for 50-some years. And he's like, those trees gotta come down. It was, if those trees fall, it's gonna destroy your house. I said, we gotta come down. And then he marked off all the trees that were to come down. I think we got a letter saying that one of them couldn't because it wasn't dead, so we did not remove that one. But all the other dead trees that were ash trees, he said, this is a public, we gotta remove these trees. And that's why he removed them, so.
They were ash trees. You didn't do any of the boring or anything to try to
He said it was past that.
pass that stage.
Yeah,
Fine.
he was, I mean, like I said, he's been doing this, and I think he contacted the village on my behalf. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if we spoke.
Did say that. Our biggest concern was our neighbor's property, because we live in Chicago and we come back and forth. Our biggest concern was not being up here and one of those trees damaging our neighbor's property. So right away, we wanted to make sure that we took care of that right away. We would never do anything outside of what was allowed, and when we hired our contractors, we made sure they were local. And we asked them time and time again, are you sure you pulled the necessary permits? We'll send you checks. We're gonna cover everything, you know, you pay for it out of pocket, we'll send you. Time and time again, we asked them, and they continue to reiterate that they pulled all the necessary permits.
Mhm.
So we would never. We have so much respect for Door County, specifically Sister Bay. We would never go out of our way to do anything that would, you know, insult the integrity of the town. And so this is. As soon as we knew that we were in violation, we called right away. We were extremely apologetic. We paid for everything, pulled every necessary permit. And so all we wanted to do was, like Anthony demonstrated earlier with the pictures, extend the deck to the right. We never went any further than was already existing. So the gentleman that lived there before had this deck for how we don't know how long, and never, you know, was told to remove it, was never told about any setbacks or anything. And then with the concern that the highway has to be widened, then if that's the case, our deck would still not be in the way, but all the other houses would probably have to be cut in half. So I don't know how the highway would be able to be widened with all of the other homes, and specifically, it's a winding road, and right in front of our house, it leaves us with the most space. So it's just, we want to do everything that we can to be respectful of the town and, but we do think that we've improved property values, that we've done what we can to keep it, you know, beautiful and safe, and we just wanted to come in and explain that we didn't knock anything down and build some enormous,
Well, thank
we
you,
just kept what was existing.
thank you for your testimony.
Sure.
At this point, is
Well,
it,
then Carla would then be able to,
oh, she would, I thought.
Every
they were
time-
Rebutting her testimony,
She gets.
well,
she gets to go again.
yeah, every time you open it up to let somebody else testimony, then they also get to rebut what was said.
Yeah.
So that's why we try not to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to add, yes, there was some information in the file that some of the trees were, the ash trees. However, there's also a tree, I believe it was berries and some foliage. I believe when the village had, consulted talk to you about it, was described that there was sawdust, underneath the one with the berries, and the comment was made, that, oh, that was taken down last summer. I don't remember that, there is correspondence, and I could add that later, in the file. And so I'm thinking there was probably 2 trees that had, berries that were removed without a permit. And I understand that you do want to make the, City Bay, it's just very, you know, beautiful, but, you know, this is the rule, everyone has to follow it, and, it's pretty clear, so.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're at the point where if the board needs any clarification, that they should go ahead and ask questions.
Yeah, actually, I do have one. I think, so from looking at the picture that were sent, that at grades 2, it looked like it was smaller than the current footprint of the deck. You guys have like this concrete at grade, you know, patio that was smaller, and then the concrete stoop of the stairs that was protruding out, and you guys like built on top of it, but it seems like you guys extended the deck when you like do like the total square footage of the deck.
Yeah, so
I think that's,
So the deck is bigger now than it was actually before.
I think that's actually addressed in the thing here, and I was gonna bring that up. It says the original deck extended 10 feet from the home and was replaced with a deck that extended 9.9 feet 3 from the home. So the new deck is slightly less intrusive on the setback than the original structure. They went longer sideways, right?
Yeah, that's.
But they didn't
That
go
means that-
out towards the
yeah.
road. Yeah,
But the total square footage
Yeah.
is bigger than the original. Is that true? Or-
yeah, because we went wider,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not closer to
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah.
Right.
and then is it, Mr. Kearney, is it acceptable for me to ask a question of the zoning administrator at this point?
Yes. Yeah, you haven't closed testimony, so you can.
I can ask, okay,
Go ahead.
unless somebody else, I'll let somebody else.
Can I ask questions even though I'm late?
Yes.
It wasn't on purpose. I apologize. And I'm sorry if I missed all the testimony. I apologize again. But I don't understand, and I understand you had a contractor, a local contractor, but having run a business, it all comes back to me. Right? So we're the ones that have to double check everything. So you might say to them, do you have everything? But if you're gonna live here or you wanna be part of the community, you have to go to the administrator and say, what do we have to have? And I'm guessing that that's not what happened until somebody stopped you from doing what was necessary, or said to you, you have to cease and desist, right? And at that point, you obviously followed through, correct? But not before that. Okay, thank you.
I was just kind of curious as to why, if I understood all this correctly, we're here for a variance hearing on the deck, the front deck, and I'm curious why back deck or tree issues are being discussed. And I would address that to the,
When I provide testimony, I like to add a little bit of reference.
okay,
So we know where the history is important, to get to the point, I believe, in terms of the origin, maybe the origin, but here was a,
Oh, I agree on the year and that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure about trees, yeah, but that's just me, cause I mean, I'm looking at it, we're here to talk about a deck that's on the front of the house that is less than 70 feet from the center line. And do they get a variance? So, that's just me. Any other testimony? So I think at this point, then we would close the public hearing. And at this point, the public hearing closed, no more testimony. Now it's up to the board to discuss. And hopefully come to a solution, a resolution, decision. I'll open it up for thoughts.
My thought after reading everything, because I read it through twice, of course, first time you never understand it all, and even the second time I didn't understand it all. Things that bother me about it is, I understand he didn't have he had a contractor that he thought was doing what was necessary, and he wasn't. But like I said, it comes back to you. And despite the fact that all the other houses are closer, that doesn't have anything to do with the deck that was put in. And after the fact, you don't do it and then ask forgiveness when it comes to permits and variances. At least that's the way I've had to do it. When I live in Sister Bay, I've always had to get the permits that I needed. So I have a hard time with granting the variance. I think the deck should go back to original, if that's not original, but ground level or whatever you want to call it. And that's how I feel about it. After the fact, forgiveness is, pay your fines and all that kind of stuff, but doing it and then asking for forgiveness.
Mhm.
I mean, Mr. Zito said that it's gonna cost him a lot of money to remove that deck, but like I said, that's not part of granting a variance. We know that's like economic thing is. We should not consider that at all. Actually, I did have a house on Maple Drive, couple of houses over. So, and most of the houses are like at grade level there or have a stoop. Nobody almost has I think a wooden deck there. And no, I don't think we should give variance for that, cause you can just build over something and then expect to have it, keep it, if it's not part of the variance code and stuff like that.
I don't have a problem with the variance because when you hire somebody who presumably is certified at what they do, you are relying on them to get the permits. If this is what they do for a living, they would get the permits and they would know what the rules are and so forth. And so I feel that they've really been put in a position of being at the mercy of people who didn't stop it in time, if that was needed, or get the variance in time.
I guess I come down to the,
Exciting part.
yeah, unfortunately, yeah. To you, the question you had asked about the size, to me, that was important in that it was whatever, 6, 7, 8, 10 inches, whatever, closer the old way. Now it's a little bit away from the road. So to me, that's a big plus in the whole situation. They did make the deck bigger, but they went to the side, they went to the west. So there'd be more deck, I guess. Yeah, and I think I sort of pretty much leaning towards agreeing with Pat, though I hear your point about it falls on yourself. But, yeah, I mean, stuff I've done, we've hired contractors. I mean, but all I really worry about is their insurance. I always check to make sure they have insurance.
Don't you, sorry.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really follow up with them that hard. Did you get that permit? I just assume that they did, especially if they're a reputable company, they have, good, insurance. They seem to be doing everything right. So I just assume they're following through. Yeah, possibly shame on me. I hear what you're saying. So I'm kind of leaning more towards letting it go, but then at this point, and then we're at a stalemate. It would be,
Stalemate results in no variance.
No variance.
yeah. So. They could, well, that's. I think I would probably lean towards letting them have the variance just because it's farther away from the center line. They relied on contractors who let them down. Yes, they should have done their due diligence, but we don't always do that. It's kind of the other thing I think was in the documentation, there's been no issues with safety with their deck that's been there for a while, or anything really along that road, I think it said. So it's not like this is gonna cause a big problem if it stays. So I would kind of lean towards granting them the variance. Unless somebody can convince me otherwise.
At this point, it's a good time to work through the reasons to see, is there preservation of intent, et cetera? And then from there, we can draw the conclusion. Do we check all the boxes? Does it get granted or doesn't it? So I'm going to give you the little worksheet that you normally have. So we use a form or a template, and then we work through it to see, does it meet all the conditions it's supposed to? So on the first page at the very bottom is where we start. So to see if there is preservation of intent. So we have to ask ourselves, it says no area variance shall be granted that is not consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. So we have to, does it have preservation of intent?
The variance?
Granting the variance, would it have preservation of intent?
It's not. No variance shall be granted that is not consistent. So this variance would not be consistent with that 66.0311.
Okay, so you're saying,
That would be the way I read the question, the wording.
well, it's so,
I think,
and it's weird how it's always worded in statutes and stuff,
Yeah.
but it's asking you very simply, granting the variance, would that be consistent, would this deck, the way it's built right now, meet the purpose and intent of the R1 zoning district regulations?
well, it doesn't, because it doesn't meet code is what this code, if the code is written so that it doesn't meet it. If I read it through correctly. Right?
Does everybody agree with that finding that it does not meet preservation of intent because it does not meet the dimensional regulations basically in the R1 district?
Well, wait a minute, dimensions?
Well, does it meet the intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located? The regulations in the R1 district is what's at issue here, which is the road setback.
Oh, okay.
Does everybody agree with that statement?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. So then we move on to number 2. We have to see how this works. Is there an exceptional circumstance? So there must be some unique circumstance or conditions that apply to this lot or parcel that did not apply to the other properties in the same zoning district in the neighborhood, or it says specifically within 1,000 feet of this property. It says here, the granting of the variance should not be of so general or recurrent nature as to suggest that the zoning chapter should be changed. So are there unique circumstances or conditions to this specific lot or parcel that somebody else doesn't have on their property?
And I would say yes, because each one of them, because of the curve of the road,
It's different.
changes the setback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so the curve of the road affects the setbacks for his property.
Mhm.
Okay. So then there's the third one. Is there a hardship? It says no area variance shall be granted solely based on economic gain or loss. The hardship must be based upon conditions unique to the property rather than considerations that are personal to the owner. Does it pass that test? What was that?
I see no hardship.
No hardship?
Yeah. Based on the wording, yeah.
Does everybody agree with that statement?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Preservation of property rights. The variance must be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights possessed by other properties in the same zoning district. In other words, he should be allowed to enjoy his property the same way other people in that zoning district enjoy their property. Would this preserve those property rights for him?
I think it would, yeah.
Okay, then we look at the absence of detriment. No area variance shall be granted that will create substantial detriment to adjacent property or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest.
Well, it's not gonna affect it, adjacent property for sure.
So you're saying there is no detriment to the adjacent property?
So,
Yeah,
you know, but the only question I have to that, can I question or not? Is if any of the people on either side wanted to put a deck on, are we then gonna have to grant them variances also because you've set a precedent? Even though he's got a little bit more space,
Mhm.
it still is, he doesn't have the 70-foot setback either.
Right.
So that's the question that I would have, whether that's.
I don't think like getting a variance like sets a precedent. I don't think like it's just unique for this property. If I'm correct, yeah. So I don't think like giving them variance will make like other people say like, hey, we want that too.
So then we would say that,
I really think you have to think about that because along that road, what if the three properties to the west wanted to have them and they're all 50 feet away? How are you gonna say no to that? Cause they're not gonna be in the road either.
well, hopefully they'll come to the village to get a permit.
But the village doesn't have to give them a permit,
Right,
and then they'll have to come to us and appeal it
Yeah.
and get a variance. That's my point.
then we could
I
say, well, at
guess.
least you at least you tried for the permit.
It's happened before, but that this group has authorized variances where properties don't replicate the one next door, where everybody's is a little different, some are angled, some are whatever. And it's come up before that variances have been given that don't affect neighbors or public ability to, you know, get through or get around the property or that. Especially when it's something that wasn't done maliciously to purposely sort of thumb their nose at anybody, but just, you know, and the enhancement of the property from the pictures is, speaks for itself.
I think we're like at 3-1 on yes on this one, that it doesn't create, or we're saying it does not create a detriment to the adjacent property.
Okay, no detriment. Okay,
3-1, fine.
so now let's go back and make a decision. So we're saying, so it says, you know, the requested variance satisfies, does not satisfy all of the following tests. Remember, we gotta check all the boxes. So preservation of intent, we're saying no, it does not meet the preservation of intent tests. Exceptional circumstances, we're saying yes, it does meet the exceptional circumstances test. Hardship, we said no, it does not meet the hardship test. Preservation of property rights, we said yes, it does meet the preservation of property rights test. Absence of detriment, we said, was that a no or yes? Let me think about it. No, or shall be granted that will create substantial. That was a no. They did not create detriment to the neighbors.
Oh, it's 3-2 in favor of granting the variance, is that?
Well, we haven't voted yet. What it's saying is, you know, it says you have to do the check all the boxes. And we went through and looked at, no, they don't check all the boxes and why. So then you have to decide, are you going to grant it or not?
Doesn't hardly have anything to do with that, just we all discussed it and this is what we came up with.
Because remember, every time we have a variance, we have to explain in our decision document our findings.
Mhm.
Yes, it met the hardship test. No, it didn't, etc. So,
Do we want to have any more discussion on it, or do we want to try to move forward with the vote?
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to make a motion. Otherwise, I will. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I vote nay.
So
No, you gotta make the motion. We have
Okay.
to have the motion first to,
Motion to approve or to deny the variance request.
yes.
you're making the motion to
No.
deny?
I'm making a motion to deny, yes.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Take a roll call, all right, for a vote. Pat? Do you,
Nay, I don't agree.
you made the motion, so
Yes.
I go back to what I said before. I think I'm a no on the motion. Which unfortunately leaves us at a 2-2.
Which means the variance doesn't get granted.
Well, so the motion fails. Somebody can make another motion.
Yeah, I did that before. It doesn't change. I'll make a motion that we accept the variance. Do I have a second? I'll make the motion, we accept it.
You accept the variance?
Yes,
To grant
the grant the variance, I mean.
Yeah, I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call. Pat? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, Pat?
Mhm. Yeah,
No, yes, so again, 2-2.
So the variance is denied. So. Now, do you want to do an order associated with this or just leave it that they have to come into compliance? So you can do an order, you know, that they can keep the part that was there before, but step down to that grade. It's totally up to you what you want to do with that. You don't have to issue an order, but do you want to?
But if we don't grant the variance, then what stands is what? They have to take the deck down?
Right?
Yep. Return it to back, whatever it was.
But that would be the order to take it back to where it was, correct?
Right, you could issue an order to, that they are allowed, that they have to remove the part that was not there in, when they purchased the property.
That would be the extension to the west of the deck for sure, and what, the height? Cause I guess it
was at grade.
yeah, it was more at grade. So it'd basically really be taking the deck down, but
Well, everything that was added, so they would basically have to remove everything except the 5-foot strip in front of the door that comes out 10 feet beyond the house.
With steps,
Right, and then those two
so they have
steps.
intransability.
But wasn't there a section that went along the house? Or that's the at grade part?
That would include it. Well, yeah, the part that went along the house was at grade. So, and that part we don't regulate, so they can put that back to at grade if that's what, if they want. They can put that part at grade without any blessing
Permits.
from the board.
Right.
Yeah, because that part does not require permits.
As long as it's less than
6 inches.
6
from
inches.
Finished grade to the top of the structure.
But aren't they gonna need some access from this?
There'll have to be a
Would be
step
remaining-
down probably
Yeah.
from the, what? From this to that, right?
Right, correct.
There'd be a step down, but that would have to be that's gotta be part of the regulation of something. You have to have a step.
Right.
Which has to be a certain height.
I'd be comfortable at least making that. And what you called it an order. Julie,
Okay,
is that the
Okay.
right terminology?
correct. So the order would be to,
Take the deck back.
allow that portion that was not there in 2015 to be removed. I say 2015 because that's what the date of this photo is, so. Or the assessor record, so you could do, it is ordered that everything that was not there as of the assessor's inspection in 2015 must be removed. I don't know how else you'd want to say it, really.
But that would then take it back to where it was.
Or you could just say they're allowed to keep the original 60 square feet of deck.
That'd be easier.
That's easier.
Yeah. Cleaner.
Okay,
Easy to
original
understand.
60 square
Yeah.
feet, that was there when they purchased the property.
But the original 60 square feet.
Mm, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Anthony. Okay. Would there be a second to the order?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Pat?
I,
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, 4 ayes. Okay. So that's it.
Okay, so at this point at 6:04. Make the motion to adjourn.
Nope, 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 nope.
Oh, nope.
Nope, just close the hearing or,
Oh, yeah.
Move on to the next agenda item.
Oh, that's right. We have that other stuff. Do we want to,
yeah, you guys can all go if you want, because we've got regular business on the agenda.
so we'll close the public hearing at 6:04. And we'll jump back to the agenda items. I don't think, do we need another motion to do that?
No, we can just
Nope.
keep going.
So we've discussed new rules of order.
So, and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the statutes say zoning boards of appeals adjustments have to have their own operating rules. And even the board bylaws say you have your own operating rules. And I could never find any in the file. And I talked to Jill and she's like, as long as I've been around, they've never had their own operating rules. And I'm like,
I had something and I should have brought it with me. I found something that was sent to me when I first started
good.
1,000 years ago, it seems like. It's sitting at my desk at home. I don't know if it's rules and regulations, but
And
I never
then
saw him.
it's about this thick.
it might have
Look
been
up-
like a handbook or something, or maybe our committee bylaws.
I don't remember what it said in the beginning. I was just like on the top of it. Found it last night. I don't know what I was going through, but it was obviously something that was given to me before our first
Meaning.
meeting way back
Well,
when.
And the other thing is that every board is supposed to have their own operating rules, so
Sure.
they wouldn't apply right now anyway. So our new board, right?
Right.
So we should have these operating rules. So I had Janelle find a template and then I tweaked it. Randy, I know these were given to you a long time ago. It's just taken forever to get back here in front of the board. We wanted to do it at a meeting where you didn't have a lot of controversial stuff, so it's taken a while. So, if somebody has any edits, we could certainly make them. Cause this is just what staff is proposing to you, but,
Oh, that's just.
it starts on page 22 in your packet. So,
If, let's say we voted and we approved these, but somewhere down the road, we like, oh man, I missed that. We can go back and amend.
we can amend them.
Sure.
Mhm.
And it's a good idea from a legal standpoint to have them, just because the law says we're supposed to have them and we haven't. So,
Yeah.
it's a good idea to adopt what you can.
Been
now.
operating under that for since
Exactly.
2016, I think, right?
And if you
It's like
find,
not asking for a permit.
if you find things that you want to change, you
Exactly.
can always change them. One
And
of the-
I honestly didn't read this. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Go through everything.
I took a look at it. It looks pretty good, Julie. I like your edits in it. The only thing that I would like to see is where it talks about powers of the board and it describes how you can do appeals and you can do variances. I just like you to broaden that a little bit to include and such other matters as are referred to it by the village board. And I'll explain why in just a second.
Are you talking about appeals and applications? Section 5?
Is it section five?
Appeal,
Section
4, powers.
Power? Oh, powers. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Because sometimes oddball things come up. And there's a question about, well, who's gonna hear that? One of the things is, there's this chapter 68 in Wisconsin statutes. So if the village doesn't have some procedure to handle an appeal, it goes under this chapter 68, but there's nobody in place to handle these chapter 68 appeals. And it's usually then a discussion between the village president and the chairman of this committee. Well, do you think you guys can handle this appeal? So I'd like to at least have that in there to enable this body to handle these oddball appeals that might show up. And the village board might not have any place to put it.
I think that's a good idea because I know like with the short-term rental code, they gave some responsibility to the ZBA, I think, without really talking to them, but that's another oddball thing that was thrown at
Yep.
them.
Yep, so it's sort of a good idea to have that. And such other matters as are referred by the village president, it's,
Make that a D,
yeah.
and other matters as referred to.
Sure. Randy, what do you think about putting in here, I know, one thing I ran across was that with the land division code, they cannot hear variances on a land division code. And I'm concerned when I'm gone, or maybe when you're gone, nobody's going to be around to remind them of that. If you have new staff or people that don't have a lot of experience, they're not going to know that. So I was thinking,
Understand what a land division code.
if you create a subdivision, let's say instead of having 100-foot wide lots throughout it, they want to have, the land division code regulates subdividing land or creating a plat, which would have like for a subdivision or a condo plat. So somebody may want something that, like, let me just think real quick. So the land division code talks about if you're putting in a cul-de-sac, you have to have such a certain size arc on the cul-de-sac or something. Maybe somebody will be like, well, we don't have enough land to make that arc. We want to have a smaller cul-de-sac. Well, that's not what the code says. So well, can I go for a variance before the zoning board of appeals? I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, okay, because it's dimensional, right? Let's go to the ZBA. No, you can't do that by statute. You cannot hear variances from a land division code. I don't know why. I just know that's the way it's written.
Right,
So I think it'd be good maybe to put that in there because I do worry, if you get new staff or people that don't know better, they could be bringing it to you and you could be putting the village, we could be in a situation where somebody could challenge it and win us.
So you're saying it's if they're trying to, they're taking a piece of property and they're trying to put something into it that can't be there or isn't big enough or small enough to be there.
Right, because like we're used to saying, if you don't meet dimensional requirements, like a road setback, let's go to the zoning board of appeals. So if you have a land division code and, somebody could say, well, I don't meet the code, well, let's go to it's dimensional, let's go to the ZBA, but the state doesn't allow that. Another example is, so we just created, 2 years ago, we created something called a cluster subdivision where if you have a piece of land, you can have, let's say, 20 lots. We created it to say, well, but if you cluster them all together to try and preserve maybe the woodlands or the wetland, we'll give you more lots. We'll give you a higher density. And they might be like, well, I want a variance to have even more. Well,
More than what you've already granted?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay, I get it.
So where would you put that?
I think we would just put that, in here, under that powers.
So that you make that another.
So it's
line?
very clear that, yeah, I'd probably reorder these, so number C is always
Okay, but
last,
whatever,
but
yeah,
we'll
but it
fix
would
that.
be in there.
And then Randy will have to look at it.
that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I have a question. If we read through all these, if we go, okay, let's accept this now. And we read through all these on our next one, which I hope isn't in a big hurry. We say, can we open this up and make
Yeah.
a change?
So if we do it at our next
You have
meeting,
to know it ahead of time.
well, if we do it if you know you're gonna do something at the next meeting, remember, we can always reconsider at the same or subsequent meeting. So if it's at the next meeting,
Yep,
we'll just make a motion to reconsider and change it.
okay,
After that, like Randy said, we would just do it as an amendment.
okay.
These aren't going to the board or anything. These are your
What our
own
rules and-
operating rules that you operate under.
Okay, I'm all for accepting the one that's here along with whatever there was.
The two
The two
additions.
additions.
Yep,
Okay.
I would second that. Yes, so I think we're unanimous for nothing.
Okay. And then the other thing we have is
Oh.
the ZBA is, but by our bylaws,
Point vice chair.
is supposed to appoint their own vice chair. And I don't know if we've ever had a vice chair, but you're supposed to. So let's clean that up as well.
I'm supposed to be sitting there and I went, sorry, Terry would be really good at it. That's what I thought.
So you're the one I can blame, okay.
So
Yeah.
she spoke up.
He texted me and I'm like, who is this? Cause I didn't know his phone number.
Oh,
And then he explained and I went, nope, I don't know enough about, and I know Randy's always here and I know somebody's always here that says, but I don't know enough about the rules of the road to do it. I'm happy to, help or ask questions, but somebody
No,
want
no.
to, Pat, you want to be the vice
I
chair?
guess
I
Pat,
didn't wanna be the chair and I don't wanna be the vice chair. We need more board members.
Board members.
Obviously, that's the thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I've asked a couple of people, but everybody's,
Smarter than that.
yeah, they don't know how I got suckered in however many years ago it was, but.
Which administrator did you come in under?
Denise, I don't remember, to be honest with you. Denise asked me and for like the first 5 years, there was never an appeal. There was never,
No.
I was like, this is the best committee in the world to be on. And then all of a sudden it's like.
Started up here.
So do we want to do short straw?
I'm happy to be vice chair,
Deb Duran.
because you're gonna show up at every
Yeah, I
meeting.
will. Yeah, I will. Probably.
Randy, do we have to do an I nominate, I second? Okay.
At least a motion to nominate.
I'll make the motion that we nominate Deb as the vice chair of the zoning board of appeals committee.
I second.
Motions have made and seconded. Take a roll call.
You're not gonna wanna know my answer.
Aye. Aye. 4 ayes.
And voted for herself. I'm impressed.
Okay, now we can adjourn.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We adjourn at 6:16.
I'll second it.
All's in favor, aye. All
Aye.
opposed, no.
And again, I apologize. For some reason, I had it in my phone at 5:30, so I was like 15 minutes late.
I don't think you missed much at the beginning.
And for that, you get to be vice chair.
I think we.
Let that
be a lesson.
No kidding.
That was good. Fred.
That was good.
Good night.
How is Liz doing, do you know, possibly?
I have